What if I were to tell you that the biggest obstacle to you living the dream life that you wish for is you? Do you ever feel like you were meant for something really big and like there's some invisible force that is just holding you back? Guys, if you'll stick with me through this book review of The Big Leap, he talks about our upper limit problem that we all face. And if you'll stick with me, it'll help you start to climb as high as you'd like to. Welcome to Think Your Way to an Epic Life, where we turn obstacles into stepping stones and break the chains that hold us back. I'm your host, Kara Schug, and today we're going to dive deep into The Big Leap. It's a book by Hendricks, who is a best-selling author and a renowned psychologist. We're going to discover why we sabotage our own success and how we can smash through those barriers. Get ready, everybody. We are about to unleash your personal power. And the upper limit problem isn't going to stand a chance after you hear everything that I've got to tell you about this great book. Don't stop and not get the book, guys. You need the book, but this is a good way to get you started. So imagine that there's a thermostat setting on your life, and that thermostat setting dictates how much love, joy, and success and happiness that you deserve. That's kind of scary to think that there's a thermostat that is doing that. But here's the good news. You control the thermostat. So for me personally, this book has been incredibly eye-opening. Despite the personal and professional growth that I have achieved, I still felt like I was hitting a ceiling. Like every time I get there, I'd hit this ceiling, and then I figured out that I was self-sabotaging. And so The Big Leap really helps you show where you're self-sabotaging and what you can do to make it better. So the book, The Big Leap, really helped show me where I was sabotaging. And so once I know where I am, then I can fix it, right? Until you know what the problem is, there's nothing that you can do for it. And so according to places like AA, awareness is at least 50% of the battle. So if you know that every time things get going really good, then I pick a fight, or I fall down and hurt myself, or I get sick, you can change the way you react to it. So one of the stories that Gay told that was like a, oh my gosh, I do that moment for me, was when he was telling a story about how his daughter had gone off to college. And so one day he's going to lunch with a buddy of his. And it was wonderful. They had an incredible lunch, and he comes back to the office and he's sitting in his chair and he's thinking, my life is good. My relationships are good. My friendships are good. Everything is pretty good right now. And he kind of stretches in his chair and relaxes a little bit. And then all of a sudden, these terrible thoughts filled up his mind about his daughter. He thought, oh my gosh, she must be scared and she's alone, and maybe the other girls are treating her harshly. And his happy, high feeling just got crushed with those terrible thoughts. Has that ever happened to you? So what he did is he decided, okay, I'm going to call. I can't stand this. I'm going to call. I'm going to make sure that she's okay. So he calls the college, and a lady picks up the phone, and he explains who he is and says that he's really concerned about his daughter. And the lady explains to him, no, you know what? I can see her out the window, and she's doing fine. She's playing soccer with a bunch of the other girls, and they're having a blast. So he's kind of going, okay, well, what was that about? But in his head, and the lady says, you're the third parent today that is called with these same exact concerns. And so, he's a doctor, he's a psychologist, and he's thinking, wait a minute, if this is happening to 3 people, what is the deal? So he asked her, he said, why do you think that is? Why do you think all these parents are calling and they're concerned? And she said, because they miss their kids. And so we have a tendency to project. And so they miss their kids and they're worried about them. And tell me, have you ever done that when things are going great? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my brother, mother, sister, cousin, the uncle must have had a wreck, and they're on the road and they're dying. And you have all these thoughts that will absolutely stop your forward progress. Together, let's learn how to turn our lives' thermostat up and embrace the levels of joy and achievement and happiness and learning that we all want to have. There are tips and tricks, you got to walk through them. So if you won't do this for yourself, Please do it for the people that you're around, for your loved ones. You may not feel like you have much power. However, all of us, every one of us has an immense amount of power. I'll prove it to you. Think about this. You're hanging out with 4 or 5 people. You're having a great time. You're all sitting around the table. You're playing cards, whatever. And Mr. Grouchy Pants walks in. And he's like, rah, 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 rah. And he starts to yell at one of the 5 people that you were all just having such a great time with. You tell me, what happens to the energy in that room? So you may not think you have any power, but when you don't take care of your emotional well-being, you're hurting those around you. When you do take care of your emotional well-being, you're helping those around you. That same story could be reversed. Everybody could be in a really terrible mood, and then happy-go-lucky clown dude walks in and makes everybody laugh, and there is an energy, and other people do absorb that energy. So Dr. Hendricks talks about different zones. We have different zones, and we have a zone of incompetence, and that's the stuff that anybody could do. Anybody can do them, like, putting on that, or doing the laundry or doing the dishes or whatever, things that anyone can do. Then you want to delegate those tasks. He also tells a story about a man a good friend of his, and he lives down the street, and he bought a $1,000 printer. And the guy wants to save a few bucks, and so he decides he's going to install this printer himself. He worked on it for 11 hours, and then finally he couldn't get it together. He calls the guy down the street. The guy down the street who's in college comes and fixes it for him, and he's done. So he's telling Dr. Hendricks about this. And he says, "Can I ask you a question?" And his friend said, "Sure." He said, "How much do you charge an hour for your consulting fees?" And the guy says, $1,000 an hour. And he says, "Okay, so you spent 11 hours or $11,000 trying to install a $1,000 printer?" Don't laugh at that guy. We all do that, right? We all do that. Now, if there's a chance, let's say, for example, he really was into printers and that was like a passion of his and he really wanted to understand them and do them. Well, in that case, then yeah, take your valuable time and do something that's not in your best zone, because that's how you learn. However, if you don't really care about printers that much, hire the kid up the street who only cost $100, get the job done. He gets the $100 and everybody wins. The second zone that we have is our zone of competence. And these are things that, yeah, we can do. Absolutely, we can do them. But so can a lot of other people. Delegate that. And so let's say maybe it's time for you to hire a housekeeper. Maybe a meal service delivery. Maybe when you really think about how much you're making an hour, let's say, for example, that you make $100 an hour. Wouldn't it make sense to pay someone $15 an hour to go wash your car and fill it up with gas? That way you could take that exact same hour and you could make another $100 with it. So the third zone is the zone of excellence. And the zone of excellence is, we're really good. I mean, this is, I got this, I can do this. Let's say that you've been in your current career for 10, 15 years, and you are very good at it. That can be a trap, because then you're afraid to try something different, and it can keep you in the, I'm good enough. I've got this down, and I'm good enough, and I'm in my comfort zone. And he explains the zone of excellence like this. So this man in the story is like a highly successful attorney, and he's built a great practice. His income is through the roof. He is getting all the accolades and appreciation and recognition of being this great attorney. However, all of his life, what he's really, really wanted to do was to be a screenwriter. And so he doesn't leave that. He doesn't want to leave that because he wants to be a screenwriter. So this attorney goes to one of Mr. Hendricks' workshops. And by the end of the workshop, he realizes that he wants to go to the fourth zone, which is the genius zone. And so in order to go to the genius zone, he didn't just quit his practice cold turkey. He started doing a little bit. He started going to workshops. He started doing just writing for 30 minutes a day. He started doing little bits and Eventually, gradually, he wrote a screenplay, and then he put it out to the world. He put his heart out there to the whole world, and this is my work. This is it. And he put it out there for all the rejection and all the yuck and all that stuff. And guess what? Eventually, someone bought one of his screenplays, and it became a hit movie. Think about that for a minute, guys. I really want you to stop and think about that. If you feel trapped in a position or a career, a lot of different things can make you feel trapped. One, obviously, is the money, right? I'm making good money. I need to support my family. And we all get that. One, though, is I'm doing this job. I am running my dad's business because my dad wants me to. And he would be crushed if I didn't care and didn't want his business. But I really don't want his business. There are people doing that all day long, and they're trading their lives for the approval of someone else. And a lot of times, guys, when you go to that someone else and you just say, look, I love you and thank you for giving me this business and giving me this opportunity. However, my heart is over here. I want to write screenplays. And it's painful to have to go confront someone and face your giants. But guys, that's where we talk about charging the storm. Buffalo are the only animals out there that will literally see a storm and run into it. Think about that for a minute. When they're running into the storm's up here, and they run into the storm and they run past it, and the storm goes by quicker. If they saw the storm and they're like, the storm, and they start running this way, the storm is going to stay with them and follow them. And so a lot of times the things that we really are afraid of and are avoiding, when we just pull that Band-Aid off, oh my gosh, it feels so good. You will feel the weight. I promise you, once you do this and you free yourself from a life that you feel trapped in, that you will feel the weight literally come off of your shoulders. It is wonderful. And so you do have to have persistence. This man now, that's what he does full time, is he writes screenplays. And I know all of his attorney friends are laughing at him. But I tell you what, his life is exactly where he wants it to be. I also have a coaching client. I coach realtors, and she was incredibly high up in the medical field. Like, she was a big time supervisor in the medical field. And she was embarrassed to tell people that she was in real estate for the first couple of years. But now she loves it so much, and she's making way more than she ever made in that stressful position. And so I'm just trying to encourage you, please, guys, if your heart is to do something different, just start. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, but just start. Take the steps to being able to live a life where you love what you get to do. So, what is it for you? What is it that when you do it, time just stands still? Where like 8 hours seems like a minute. And that's genius time, according to Einstein. It's when you're doing what you love to do and time just flies by. So really think about that. Take some time today, guys, and write it in a journal and think, when I was a kid, I always wanted to do this. And just take a few minutes a day and start doing whatever this is for you and build from there. Because if you don't give it a try, guys, the one thing you don't want to do is end up with regrets. So it's time for you to challenge that negative chatterbox in your head. Now, you might be saying, I don't have a negative chatterbox in my head. What's she talking about? Well, I'll prove it to you that you do. So if I was to say right now, everybody, right now, you have to get up right now and you've got to do 100 push-ups and 100 jumping jacks. How many of you in your head said, that lady's crazy, I'm not doing that? Well, that can't be you. The voice has to be someone else because it's talking to you. And so you need to learn to talk to yourself, not listen to yourself. It's imperative, guys, that you control the mental chatter that's in your head. The negative chatterbox can take you out quicker than anybody else. Let me ask you this. If one of your dear friends was to talk to you, even a fraction as mean as you sometimes might talk to yourself, would you be friends with them anymore? No way. No way. So you've got to kick that negative chatterbox out. It's gone. So Hendricks guides us through identifying the sneaky little false beliefs and the terrifying fears that keep us and our thermostat really low. Things like fear of success, fear of outshining others, We might not think about the fact that maybe when you were a kid and you did something good, your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle said, hey, you can't be outshining Joe. You know, Joe's got some issues, and so you need to not outshine him. And so you try and put a blanket over your light. Guys, I got to tell you a story about how they catch crabs. When they catch crabs, they put them in a great big metal crate. They put food in a great big metal crate, and then they lower that to the bottom of the sea. The crabs will crawl in and they eat the food. Nom, 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 nom. Delicious. I'm out. And they try to leave. Another crab will grab them and pull them back down. And the crab's like, no, there's no more food. I'm going to go now. And the other crabs will literally break their limbs to keep them down. Humans will do that to us too. Even humans that love us and have our best interest at heart, they will do that to us because they're scared, right? You're growing. There you go. Oh no, you're leaving me. I can't have you leave me. So I'm going to do whatever I can to keep you down here with me. And so it's very important who you spend your time with. I know you've probably heard it out of my mouth at least 1,000 times. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. There's no way to explain to you how important that is. You have to be around people who have achieved at least as much as you or more and have a desire to be growth-minded. When you're hanging out with people who have fixed mindsets where this is the way it is and nothing can change, then you tend to take on their thinking. You need to think bigger. Hendricks encourages us to stretch our arms as wide open as we can and then open our thoughts to as much as is possible. And we learn to live a life that's a life that we're designing. Guys, you got to live a life by design, not by default. Please don't just let whatever happens. Do your work and set your goals. So goals are something that every personal development person will tell you stuff about. Goals are incredibly important. However, there's ways to achieve them that are better than others. And so here's some statistics on goal setting and the amount of achieving. Take a guess how many people actually achieve their New Year's resolutions. Just take a guess in your head. 8%. Why? Well, they weren't written down the right way. And we'll go through that, right? But 8% is better than 0%. So write down New Year's resolutions. If that's the only thing you're willing to do, please don't stop doing that. At least do that. Written goals, when you do write written goals and then you share them, you tell someone, and it increases your success by 33%. Now, I do want to give you a warning about telling someone that we just talked about with the crabs. Share your goals, but only with people who really, truly want to see you succeed. Because especially when your goal-setting muscle is still pretty wimpy at the beginning and you don't really know what it is you're doing with goal setting, if you share your goals with the wrong person, it only takes one negative thing to make you say, you know what, they're right. That is kind of stupid. That couldn't work, right? So be real careful who you decide to share your goals with. Professional goals. Now, 24% of people who set professional goals, they achieve all of them, 24% of them. 51% achieve some of them. So is it better to have 51% of something than 0% of nothing? So set goals, set goals, set goals. When you have an accountability partner that you can trust and that you actually meet with once a week and go through all that stuff, your chance of achieving goals that were set in the right way goes up to 95%. Health goals, 91 of those with specific plans to achieve their goal on this time frame hit them. So how important is it to say, here's my goal and here's when it'll be accomplished by? 27% of financial goals are reached, but 74% make progress with specific goals. That's from Fidelity Investments. And academic goals. Students with specific goals are 2.5 times more likely to perform. That's from the educational psychology. Based on these findings, there are some recommendations for setting goals in the most effective way. One is to write down your goals. Clearly define them in writing. And this makes a tangible guide for you to follow. Very clearly set them and then look at them. in the morning, look at them in the evening. And then you have to use SMART goals. You've probably heard of this. SMART goals is an acronym. And so each of the letters stands for something. So you've got SMART. S is specific. M is measurable. A is achievable. R is relevant. And T is time-bound. And so when you're setting the goals, if you'll use that parameter, it really helps a lot. And it also helps a lot to put them in a positive instead of a negative. Don't write down what you don't want. Write down what you do want. Okay, an example of a specific goal is, let's say that you wanted to improve your public speaking. So you might write, I want to improve my public speaking skills to deliver more engaging and confident presentations at work. Measurable goals. I will measure my progress by delivering at least one presentation per month and then asking for feedback from everybody that comes. If it can't be measured, guys, you don't know when you won. You also have to look for achievable goals. I'll be able to achieve this goal by attending public speaking courses, by joining Toastmasters, by doing free presentations everywhere I can. And relevant. Guys, your goals need to be relevant to the actual goal. So what can I do that will help me get to that goal? You might want to work backwards a little bit. And then time-bound is super important, because if you don't put a time on it, it can just hang out there for the rest of your life. So give yourself short times. Within 1 week, I will join Toastmasters. Within 2 months, I will do this, so on and so forth. So SMART goals are definitely the way to go. It will help you, and it will make a massive difference in your life. So if you've never written goals before, guys, just really take some time. Put on some Bach is probably the best music. He's a classical artist, and it helps with your brain waves. And just put on that music and open up your mind to everything. Think like you did when you were a kid. Do you remember when you were a little kid and you were planning for Christmas and you're like, I want this and I want this and I want that and I want that? Go to that mindset and then really write down your goals. So when you're setting all these goals and you do something, you got to celebrate the milestones. So let's say, for example, back in this example that we're using, that you do go and you join Toastmasters. Man, you need to celebrate that. You need to tell yourself, I am so proud of you. You did that. As scary as it was to go in there and do that, you did it, and I'm really proud of you. So you have to use this hand and reach up and pat yourself on the back pretty often in order to give yourself the drive that will keep you going. You also want to maintain this, and so you have to be in pretty decent physical, mental, all of it ties together, guys. So walk. Before you're about to do something mental, get up, walk, do some squats, maybe do some push-ups. All right, in closing, I really hope that you've taken something away from my rendition of The Big Leap. Please go get the book. You can get it at Amazon or any place that sells books. And I do want to let you know that the average human in America reads 1 book a year. Please make this be the book. Read it all the way through. The average CEO reads 60, so you might want to pick up some book reading. It's very, very helpful. Also, I plan to do a lot more book reviews. This is something that at least people who won't read sometimes will watch a podcast or listen to a podcast. And so please, guys, put in the comments what books you would like to see me review, and I'll be happy to check them out. Thanks so much. And also, subscribe, put comments, and share this with your friends. Thank you.